Hey everyone. So I was in the middle of a bit of a process here, and I wanted to share because I actually think that this this sort of thing is probably pretty common for a lot of people out there. And and so that's pretty much why I share everything I share is because I feel like even if it's vulnerable and sensitive, and even if it's um, like hard to share sometimes, that it's important to share because I know there's a lot of people out there going through similar things. And yeah, it's part of my life mission to connect with people on that level and to help others through the things that I move through, and how, share the wisdom that comes through these experiences that I have. So, and I think this is especially pertinent because I think we're at a point in human history where, you know, society and culture are really going to be transforming. And I know a lot of people um, are talking about, there's a lot of different roads you could go down with it, as far as, the way we work is changing, and there's going to be machines and robots doing everything and blah, blah, blah. But I think what's really happening for us as a culture is that there's a major awakening happening. And I know it doesn't seem like that. It seems like there's a lot of darkness and shadow and a lot of crazy shit coming up. But I think there's a major awakening happening. And I think one of the things that's part of that awakening is this spark around humans realizing who they are in their individual creative power. And so within that, a lot of people are in the process right now of really birthing their soul mission. And first of all, realizing that as a society and as a culture, we really need to be bringing more of a true creative impulse that comes through the soul, through us as spiritual beings, right? Right now we don't have that in our culture and our society, but I think that's where we're heading, even though sometimes it seems like we're heading towards this hyper technological kind of robotic future. I think a lot, at least my friends, the people that I converse with, we see that happening. But I think where we're really headed, and especially if we play this right, is that we're going to be living in a culture where people are much more connected to themselves as an energetic being, as a soul being, as a spiritual being. And you don't have to be religious to think about all this stuff. It's just a matter of realizing that you're more than your body, realizing that you're more than just a sort of like physical machinery that creates actions, right? There's a deeper impulse. And so what I'm seeing is that a lot of people are on that precipice. And I know this because, I talk to my own closer friends, and I see this on Facebook, and a lot of people are already there. They've already birthed it, But for myself too, for myself as well, it's been a really multidimensional, rich process coming into my soul purpose and really trusting that process and being able to move through it step by step. And what I'm seeing for myself, and also with clients and also with friends, certain friends, is that this process is not something that, I think for some people in the old way, that process would have just been, oh, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to learn this thing and it's going to be my mission and my calling and I'm going to learn how to do it. And it's the path is laid out and whatever. That's kind of not how this new way is, and I'm just calling it, my words are limited, old, new, whatever. But this new way it's a multidimensional integrative process. And this is one of the things that I really want to help people do. And what I mean by that is that as you're getting in touch with this creative impulse, right? This divine creative impulse that's guiding you to birth this certain soul purpose or mission, you get these upgrades. Because if it's a soul mission, you almost need to be like you're a rough gem that needs to be polished into a certain structure in order to hold the purpose, right? In order to hold the mission, in order to make the transmission clear. And so as those upgrades happen, it bumps up against anything that's in the way, right? And so for me personally, like part of my purpose and mission as I see it, as I understand it in this moment, is sharing things like this. And yet I had so much trauma and so much evidence in my childhood, in my past, that would seemingly stop me. And this is the thing about our culture and society too, is children are raised, they're not raised to be fully them authentically themselves and birth this authentic divine mission, right? They're raised to be sort of followers into this matrix structure and sort of fit themselves in. And so even if there's not trauma, even if there's not physical abuse or emotional abuse or sexual abuse, right? Our society as a whole sort of grinds that impulse out of humans, right? So the world that I want to create and that I see being birthed is different than that, right? The world that I see is that each person is a co-creator and we co-create this world together. And that doesn't mean we don't all, we have to figure out how to get all the jobs done to keep society going. But so coming back, these upgrades, when these awakenings happen and these upgrades happen through the meditations, through the yoga, through leaning into the next level of expansion, right? The energy comes in, it bumps up against, like I said, anything that's in the way. So the process of birthing your soul mission is so much more than just learning a skill and translating it for others, at least for me, and I think for a lot of you, okay? It is a process, it is a multidimensional internal process of integration, right? So it's integration of not just your trauma, right? But integration of your different energy bodies, your mind with your physical body, right? So there's this whole multidimensional process of integration happening. And then there's this really interesting thing, specifically personally, that's been happening for me over the last few years. And it's been in layers, right? So I'll get through one layer, I'll expand into, so basically when I expand into a certain level of sharing and exposure and giving of myself openly, right, through my work, through my soul purpose, that expansion will expand into a layer of imprinting that is sort of rooted in distortion. And I recognize that it's distortion, but when you're in it, you can't just deny it. You have to integrate it, right? So this distortion is this sort of energetic blockage and distortion, how the energy is running around the trauma. And so specifically for me, it's been this really interesting polarity, right? So it's been the polarity at this layer that I'm on now. It's been the polarity between fear of being seen on the right or the left, whatever, it doesn't matter which side, and this intense desire to be seen, right? And so for me, how I see that is that I've got this inner polarity, and I actually see this as the wounded inner child that learned to protect herself from the world, basically. Armor up, cover it all up, you know, don't show vulnerability, don't show emotion. And I've learned all kinds of coping mechanisms that I've unlearned over the last 3 years to a huge degree. But so then you have this side, which is the kind of more genuine inner child, right? That's really free. She's fun. She's not worried. She'd love to be seen. She wants attention. She wants to be the center of attention. She has fun with it. She has no problem with any of it, right? And it's very free, right? But the whole thing is like, these are both still children. These are not these two aspects of myself, right? They're still rooted in the past. They're still children. But that doesn't take away from the importance of communicating with those aspects and bringing them into integration, right? Into the center. This is like second chakra. This is second chakra healing. This is the emotional body, right? And these are the places the emotional body split, right? And learned all these coping mechanisms, learned how to protect itself, learned coping mechanisms to bust out. You know, that's a whole nother story. But so you have this at the second chakra. Now, the soul purpose also has to be an integration. So the soul purpose, in order to really birth a higher purpose, right? A higher purpose, which comes from the heart, which comes from the mind and the heart in balance, which comes through the soul, right? That's the adult. That is the individuated, integrated human that's birthing that purpose. In order to stay aligned with that purpose and bring it through, these childlike aspects need to get to know each other. They need to be brought, they're basically fragments. They need to be brought back into center through that second chakra. And this is a whole, I'm not going to go into details of like all of how that's done. There's a lot of different techniques and practices to do this, to hold space for this. But once they're brought back in, and there's a lot of grief, you know, there's a lot of grief because it's a big fucking thing to let go of that aspect of your childhood, let go of that part of yourself, or bring that part of yourself in that you really don't accept, and also let go of that void that was not filled, right? When you were, because it should have been, it really should have been when you were a child. So these two polarities, they come in, they get to know each other. It's this kind of messy emotional process at times. And then they're integrated to a third degree into this holy trinity, right? So your polarity might be different, but I have a sense that this polarity around being seen is big for humanity. And it's really big for people who want to birth their soul mission in a way that they need to be seen to do it. They need to be able to share uh, themselves almost on an intimate, vulnerable level, and that there can be a lot of energy bound up in this polarity. So anyway, that's kind of like, I've been in that process. I haven't really been on social media for a little while, and I thought, well, that might be kind of cool just to be my first little video, casual video to share, because I've been playing around with putting my face on camera and talking with everyone and sharing some of these more intimate details, but also how they relate to to my soul mission, and to, I think, a lot of you out there. So anyway, thank you. Sending love. Bye-bye.